Boker Tov Chavrim, I'm Stephen Ben-Nun. You're watching Israeli News Live, and as we just came through the panhandle of Florida just a day before yesterday, returning back from the conference there in Pensacola, Florida, we came through Tallahassee, and of course, as I mentioned on the broadcast yesterday, the lines were unbelievable already at the gas station. Now, I've been through many hurricanes in my life, starting with Hurricane Camille when I was just about 5 years old, something like that. Still remember the hurricane, still remember the water. They always say that things that are kind of a shock to the mind are those things that last the longest. But anyway, many other smaller hurricanes down through life. And then, of course, I've dodged some. Hurricane Ivan. I happened to be living in Israel at the time when it barreled up through the panhandle of Florida there and caused a devastation coming right across the Alabama's Orange Beach area. And, of course, Pensacola was just hammered. I remember flying in, and as I flew into the Pensacola International Airport there, I was just stunned at the difference in the landscape. I had grown up just outside of Pensacola, and of course I went to high school in Pensacola, so I saw the trees just leveled, and something I'd never seen before. I'd never seen so much devastation in my life. So I know exactly what type of damage can be done with these super high winds, and especially up in the Tallahassee area, which looks like it's going to take the brunt of the storm with those winds on the eastern side of the eye wall. All around that eye wall area, it is going to be absolutely devastating, and beautiful oaks that are all through Tallahassee area and all the way down to Apalachicola. It's going to be a massive destruction as that eye wall comes through there. And I have been in an eye wall of a storm on two different occasions already. One is only about 110 mile per hour winds in its eye wall. I forget the name of that hurricane, but it definitely that's that's when it kind of gets just a little bit scary, is when you're near the eye wall itself. I remember being in the eye wall of Frederick, but that wasn't that big of an issue. I think it was only like 85, 90 mile an hour winds there. But as those winds get faster and faster, and then you start watching those trees pop and snap, especially the pine trees, as if they were just toothpicks, that can be an interesting sight to see. Anyway, I wanted to share with you, this is from the Weather Channel. I have CBS News also, where Governor Rick Scott is talking about what should be done. In fact, you know what? Let's go to Governor Rick Scott first, because this was yesterday. He's talking about the evacuation process. Need to evacuate the area, those low-lying areas, especially in light of the fact they're talking about a 9 to 13-foot storm surge in those areas east of the storm. Especially around the Apalachicola area, and some of the maps I've seen, that storm surge is going to go a long way inland. And I know that when Ivan came through Pensacola, the Bay Bridge, the interstate bridge that goes across, most of it was completely taken out. They had to totally rebuild that bridge, and some estimated over 20-foot wall of water came through that area. So I have no idea, but I do know it can be very, very dangerous. Let's listen in to Governor Rick Scott as he spoke, I believe this was yesterday, actually 3 hours ago, on what he advised the residents of Florida.
Joined by Florida Governor Rick Scott from the State Emergency Operations Center in Tallahassee. Good morning, Governor. You said something blunt on Twitter. You said the time for evacuating along the coast has come and gone. What if I'm in the middle of evacuating and hear that? Yeah. What do I do?
Well, you've waited too long. You've got to hunker down. You've got to get shelter as quickly as you can. This thing is coming. As you heard, it's getting worse. I think what people didn't realize is that it could get worse. 145-mile winds now. 12 inches of rain. We'll have flash flooding. But the thing that I think is so different is the unbelievable storm surge. We're having as much as 13 foot of storm surge. When that storm surge comes in, you have no control of it. There's so much pressure, and it pushes everything in, and then it sucks everything out. 3 foot of storm surge can be deadly. So 12, 13 foot of storm surge can be devastating. So we have 3,500 3,500 members of the National Guard have deployed. We have over 1,000 rescue individuals that are ready to come as soon as this thing passes. But they cannot rescue you during the middle of this storm. Don't go out in the middle of the storm and try to get somewhere. We have healthcare strike teams ready to come in to do everything that we can to help. But right now, if you're along the coast, you've got to hunker down. If you're in places like Tallahassee, there's a little bit of time left, but not much. And we're going to have hurricane force winds even in a place like Tallahassee.
Governor, I was looking at these. I mean, some of these counties that are going to be impacted.
Kind of pause it right there just for a moment here. Let me just kind of share with you, especially if you are friends of ours that live in Florida and you are up anywhere in this panhandle area. Governor Rick Scott speaking about that evacuation process, and it's too late to evacuate. Excuse me. I can certainly attest to this. I had friends and family members, because I've had a lot of family that live throughout the panhandle area, over the years. But when I was in Israel, I remember those messages about how that they had waited too late to try to escape Ivan, and the Highway 29 that goes north up into Alabama from the panhandle of Florida was so deadlocked that they couldn't even get back home. That was one of the situations, and luckily friends that I knew had friends that lived up near the northern part of Florida there. They were able to run to their own homes there and bunker down. But that's just how serious it is when they talk about the evacuation. If you don't evacuate early enough, there is just no way to get out, and then you end up being trapped out in the storms. And just imagine if you're in a flood zone area and those type of water that comes through, you're just stuck. And I remember also the news on Hurricane Ivan on the interstate bridge. There was a truck driver that actually, as the hurricane was coming up through, he was trying to drive across that bridge, and after the hurricane passed, they saw his truck stuck on the bridge. The driver was gone, never to be seen again, at least that I know of back then. Maybe they found his body later, but it was believed that he did die in the storm. And of course, the bridge was just being totally washed away. And you're talking about an interstate bridge that was, I guess, at least 15 foot off of the higher than what the water was. Since then, the new interstate bridge, it's about 30 feet above the water. So that just kind of tells you how high that storm surge was. If it was 15, 20 feet, whatever the case may be, it did wash that bridge completely out. And there is always a loss of life in these types of storms. And of course, your pets, things like that, they need to be brought in, especially if they're outdoor animals. They should be brought in to try to keep them safe from this type of devastating storm. And the thing is, of course, it's a bit too late to get anything else to help survive the storm, as far as the water, things like that. But of course, there is, as my mother used to do, she would always fill the bathtub full of water. In the event that if you have no other way to get water, at least by having the bathtub filled with water, you do have some water supply in your house as long as you possibly can, because storm surge can also affect water supply, damage things, etc. Anyway, it always makes you a little bit nervous how they're going to respond afterwards. You remember down in Louisiana, so many stories about disarming people came about after that particular hurricane. It will be devastating, though, without a doubt. Let's listen to the rest of what Rick Scott says here on CBS's, I believe that's the Good Morning show there.
By the storm, don't even have shelters, or that the shelters that they have are only built to withstand up to a Category 2. That's really scary.
We have 54 shelters open. Some of the counties, like Taylor County, we don't even have a shelter in the county because it's too low lying. Our evacuation orders were for the entire county. So, we've opened up shelters. We'll continue to open up shelters after that.
Are those shelters safe?
We work to make sure the shelters we're opening are safe. And we have National Guard members there. We have Red Cross there. We're going to do everything we can to keep everybody safe. It's so frustrating. I've spent the last 2 days traveling the coast to get people to evacuate. And those that elected not to evacuate, I'm very concerned about their safety now.
All right, Governor. We are also concerned. And
All right, let's go to the Weather Channel now, too, just real quick to look at some of the latest videos that they have posted on this as well, because in this particular one here, they speak about the millibars dropping 900 millibars. That's when a storm really grows into a monster. Let's listen to this.
Again, we're continuing our coverage for this. Our hurricane hunters have been out all morning. We've all in our stomachs as meteorologists. Even if you're a meteorologist in Los Angeles, you see this thing dropping to 938 millibars, down to 933 millibars, and then the visible satellite presentation shows up with the first light of the morning, and you see how perfectly symmetric this is meteorologically, and you realize this thing is a monster, and it's not going away. There's nothing that shows us it's going to get whacked before it makes landfall. So we've never had a Cat 4 in the Florida Panhandle of any month. We've never had a hurricane that's had a pressure lower than 938 in the month of October until today. We think that's certainly a very, very good possibility.
I got a couple of more here. Let me just see. I was looking at the different ones here.
Conditions are worsening in Destin and elsewhere in Florida as residents brace for what could be the strongest hurricane ever recorded to hit the Florida Panhandle. Now, if that has you scared, it should. Michael continues to strengthen and will likely hit the coast as a Category 4 hurricane, and it could have deadly consequences. Winds have increased to 145 miles per hour, and already some Florida cities are experiencing tropical storm force winds, and those winds are going to increase as it moves closer. It will then work its way across the southeast. Even as it exits off the coast, we're still talking about tropical storm force winds. Additionally, we're talking about a very dangerous storm surge, 9 to 13 feet in some cases. Also, we will have significant rainfall. Parts of Florida, 12 inches of rain, that's possible. And we'll also be monitoring for the threat of tornadoes, especially on the eastern side of this system.
There is always tornadoes associated with the hurricanes, and I can attest to that. We had one during Frederick that hit. The hurricane seemed to be fairly mild, and a tornado came right through the neighborhood where I lived at, and a huge white oak tree had been there for more than 100 years, was ripped out of the ground and thrown onto my house. So yeah, you can get some pretty serious things that happen there. By the way, if you happen to be in the storm's path and you do take photographs or video, we would love to be able to share those with the viewers. Of course, do not risk your own life going outside and doing it, but aftermath, things like that, send us some links of whatever you've shared there, or if you've posted it on your YouTube channel, we'd love to share that with people later, or Twitter channel. You can email us at Stephen Bennun, BENNUN, at gmail.com. Stephen, of course, STEVEN. Bennun, BENNUN, at gmail.com. We'd love to be able to share that with the people. If you want to remain anonymous, just let us know that. But if not, we'll gladly share what you've posted as well. Anyway, thank you for watching. We'll kind of cover this after the fact, after it's already passed through. We're going to be looking at Venezuela later today. I've gotten a lot of messages from friends about the buildup of forces off the coast of Venezuela, and I can imagine that that can be a very serious issue as well. Both Russia and the United States have interest in Venezuela. Russia has manufacturing companies there for military vehicles and things of that nature inside of Venezuela. So we will be looking into this and trying to really examine this from different aspects to see who and why the fight for Venezuela is on. I'm Stephen Bennun. You're watching Israeli News Live. Shalom in a world of Ein Shalom.